We are still working on the practice final exam. We will start here with number 20. Use the remainder theorem to find f of 3 for this given polynomial function. Now what the remainder theorem tells us is this. We will use synthetic division. Okay. We're looking for f of negative 3. So we're going to put negative 3 on the outside. And then we're going to put our coefficients on the inside of our box. Now remember, when we set this up, we want descending order, and we insert zeros if we are missing terms. That means we want the powers. What does descending order mean? It means decreasing. We want powers to decrease. And what we mean by missing terms is one at a time. We want powers to decrease one at a time. So if we start with a fifth power, the next thing we need is a fourth power. The next thing we need is a third power, and then a second, and then a first, and then a constant. So if you're missing a power, if you skip from a fourth power to a second power, you're missing the third power, you insert a 0. Okay, so you've got that in your notes. We covered that back in that lesson. Here, we're not missing anything. We go from a third power to a second power to a first power to a constant, so we're good. So setting up our synthetic division, negative 3 goes on the outside. We use our coefficients. If there's a minus in front of the number, it sticks with it. And then, once we go through the work, whatever our last number is, whatever our remainder is from the synthetic division, is going to give us our answer. So, on this problem, using synthetic division, we just bring down the 5. Now multiply negative 3 times 5, and we get negative 15. Add that column, 12 plus negative 15 gives us negative 3. Multiply on the outside, so negative 3 times negative 3 gives us 9. Add the column, negative 7 plus 9 gives us 2. Multiply on the outside, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Add the column, 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. This last number, this remainder, gives us the value that we're looking for. F of negative 3 is negative 2. So just be careful with your steps. Watch your signs. That's usually where mistakes are made on something like this. So just take your time. Find the zeros of the polynomial. So this is kind of a big problem. It has several things involved. Find the zeros. Well, that means find the solutions. That third power tells us we're supposed to have 3 solutions. Now, you could just start making guesses and hopefully come up with them, but we have a way to narrow them down. So the first thing we do is find our possible roots. And to do that, we use the factors of the constant term. So that's our 4, over the factors of our leading coefficient, and that's a 6. So from the 4, we can use plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. Those are the factors from the 4. Factors of the 6, plus and minus 1, plus and minus 2, plus and minus 3, plus and minus 6. Now, we've got to take each part from the 4 and put it over each part from the 6. So listen through the whole thing, okay? So we take parts from here over the ones from the 6. So it's plus or minus 1 over 1. which is plus or minus 1. It's plus or minus 1 over 2, so plus or minus 1/2. It's plus or minus 1 over 3, so plus or minus 1/3. And then plus or minus 1 over 6, so plus or minus 1/6. So we took the 1 from the 4, put it over everything from the 6. Now we do the same thing with the 2. So it's the plus or minus 2 over 1, which is 2. It's plus or minus 2 over 2, but that simplifies to 1, and we already have 1 in our list, so no need to write it again. Then we have plus or minus 2 over 3, and we're going to write it down. We don't already have it. And then it's plus or minus 2 over 6, but that simplifies to the 1/3, and we already have it in our list. Then we do the same thing with the 4. So we have plus or minus 4 over 1, and we don't already have it, so we're going to write it. Then plus or minus 4 over 2, but that simplifies to 2, and we already have it. And then plus or minus 4 over 3. We don't already have it written down, so we use it. And then plus or minus 4 over 6, which simplifies to 2/3, but we already have it, so we're not going to list it again. Now these are all of our possible roots, but only 3 of them are actually going to be solutions or zeros. Now you really just have to make a guess, okay? You just pick one of those to try and use synthetic division. Now what will synthetic division tell us? It will tell us that if our remainder is 0, then what we chose is a solution. I'm going to start with 1, just because 1's easy to work with. So we set up the synthetic division. We go through the work real quick. We bring down the 6. We multiply, add the column, multiply. Something jumped on me. Let me check it. 6, negative 11, negative 4, 4. 6, 6, negative 5. All right, so now that's going to give us a negative 9, and then multiplying a negative 9. That's not a 0, so 1 was not a good guess. It's not a solution. You could try negative 1. You could try those fractions, but before I go to the fractions, I would go to another one of the integers. So let's try 2. All right, so going through the synthetic, bring down the 6, multiply, add the column, multiply, add the column, multiply, and there we go. That's what we want. Since our remainder is 0, okay, it tells us that what we tried is a solution. So one of our solutions, one of our zeros is the 2, but we've got 2 others, okay? Now that's supposed to just be a negative. Now we use this to find our others. We've reduced that cubic now. This is going to give us a quadratic that we can set equal to 0, and we're going to be able to solve it by factoring. Let's see, we get a 6x squared plus 4x minus 3x, so plus x minus 2. So that's factored correctly. From this factor, we will get 1/2. From this factor, we will get negative 2/3. And those are the 3 solutions that we're supposed to get. We know it's 3 solutions from that power 3. There they are. All right, 22 and 23 are calculator problems. They're our compound interest problems. We've got to know formulas. So $2,500 is invested at 2.7% annual interest for 13 years. Find the ending balance if the interest is compounded monthly. If it tells us monthly, quarterly, daily, semi-annually, we know that we're going to use this formula. So A is our ending amount, P is the beginning amount or the principal, R is the interest rate, which we will write as a decimal, N is our number of times compounding. Since it's monthly, we will use N as 12. Quarterly would be 4, daily would be 365. You've got that in your notes. And T is our time in years. So for our problem, 2,500 is what we're starting with. 1 plus the 2.7% becomes 0.027 as a decimal over N, monthly, so 12, to the N times T power. So it's a big calculator problem now. Order of operations tells us start with that part. And I've got that part written down as 1.00225. So you can work it in your calculator and make sure you get that. To the 156 power. Then this part is what you have to evaluate next in your calculator. And I've got 1.41992 something written down. So you can just check and see if you're on the right track. And then once you do that, you multiply by the 2,500. And the answer you should get, and this is money, so we're going to round it in the end. Don't round as you go in your calculator. Just leave it all in your calculator and keep going. Or if you're going to write it down in steps, take it out 5, 6, 7 decimal places. But that's the answer you should get for that one. Then in number 23, we're compounding continuously. So we have a different formula. A equals P, E to the RT. Now remember, E is a button on your calculator. And we are going to plug in. So A equals P, well that's our starting amount, 4,000, times E to the R. So 6% becomes 0.06 times 8. Now, this is what you've got to take care of first in your calculator. So find your E button. You'll raise it to the 0.48 power once you multiply those exponents. And E to that power, I've got it written down as 1.61607 something. And once you get all that, you'll multiply by the 4,000. And when you get your final answer, you should get that. Now, those are calculator problems. You've got to know how to use your calculator. So make sure that you practice it and you know how to punch all that stuff in. All right, we will end this video here and pick back up with number 24.